Hello, Annie Creativity here, and I'm here with another update of my comp book for Comp Book 2020, which is focused on writing. Previously, I did an update on my page with Robert E. Howard, and before that, George Orwell. Today, I decided not to do an offer page, and I wanted to take a deeper dive into a specific topic: poetry. And here I have a quote from Ray Bradbury. If you do not know who he is the author of Fahrenheit 451. And that's important because that's the temperature in which paper burns. And in the book, they were trying to burn books and stuff. If you're interested in that and haven't read it before, read it. But the reason why I mentioned it is because I did some paper burning of my own to add to that page on the borders. Anyway, let's get back into his quote. Read poetry every day of your life. Poetry is good because it flexes muscles you don't use often enough. Poetry expands the senses and keeps them in prime condition. I thought that was a pretty good quote. And since I mostly write poetry, I wanted to have something to focus on what I usually would write, which is poetry. I also took a look on some YouTube account and found this account called Poetry Show, and they teach you about the fundamentals in writing poetry. So the first entry that I made into the book is about getting started and generating ideas using free writing that is timed. So I thought this was, this obviously this is something that most people already are familiar with, if not through the profession of writing, but through school, in which they often had you free write or create journals. And the reason they do this is because they want to encourage you to think creatively, make connections between things, and that will expand into your writing skills later on. So I thought this is kind of cool to just remind me to take part in free writing exercises, to get those ideas flowing again and to see what connections start to form, because subconsciously I could be having ideas and connections that I'm not really seeing until I look at some free writing. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I just put a couple of notes that he talked about and what to focus on and what not to focus on. And then I watched another one of his videos in which he talked about sound, and sound particularly in poetry, and doing this through the use of alliteration, assonance, and consonants. I'm not going to go into it very much, but it's just basically how the sound invokes a feeling with similar syllables or repetition of different sounding in the beginning or middles of the words. And he says that mainly this is important because it draws attention to a phrase or word of something important that usually the author wants you to think about. It also can create a soundscape feeling and evoke emotion through the similar uses of sound in making you slow down the poem and actually engage with the feeling of the sounds. So he gave an example, a Ted Hughes poem. So I wrote that down just to give myself something to refer back to when I'm trying to figure out how to use this in my own poetry. He described the difference between a vowel and a consonant and different types of sounds, such as plosive sounds, sibilant sounds, and fricative sounds. So I thought that was cool to make use of. So I put those down and I try to put some examples there. Something that I can research further if I need to, or just a small reference on when I'm writing my poems, what kind of sounds that I'm using and why is it important. So he said, pay attention to the sound that is used and how that may affect the reader feelings. Often this can be important with verbal poets who do live shows and do spoken word. But he said page poets can benefit from this as well, because the way the words sound from the way you say it as you're reading it can evoke the feeling. So even though you're not saying it live and speaking the poem, your reader will speak it as they read, and it could also create that feeling. So basically, this is just another tool to add to my toolbox. So I thought this was a really good topic, very interesting in how he explains it. He's very good at explaining his stuff. So if you're interested in poetry, check out his YouTube channel. It's called Poetry Show, where I got this information from, because I think he explains it in a very simple to understand kind of way. So yeah, that's what I've gotten to. Those are my pages from my new pages in my comp book. So sound off below. What do you think of this topic? What I discussed with poetry, or even just the pages themselves. I also punched a hole right here in the front and tied some thread together to make a little tassel type bookmark, so I can push this within my pages to keep track of where I am as I'm going. So I thought that was really cool. I just really wanted an excuse to use that shiny teal thread because it's so pretty. I don't know, you can't really see very clearly, but it's so pretty. So I just wanted to use that. You can do this on your own and you can add charms and stuff, but I didn't want all that. I just wanted the string. So that's why I did that. But anyway, thank you for joining me into my video and watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this inspired you in some type of way for your own comp books and your own creative ventures and projects that you are working on. So remember to always take inspiration from other people and make it your own. And by doing that, also engage in being able to stay creative and keep those muscles working for you. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.